Our group topic is about motivation and second language acquisition. My name is Kate. Our group members are Dani, Kail, and Rachel. This annotated bibliography is about the motivation and the second language learning. My topic is about the effect of motivation. The reason I chose this topic was that I wanted to find out what kinds of motivations may affect learners. In addition, I researched the effect of motivation and the demotivation. For learners, positive motivation can improve their language learning. However, many reasons of demotivation are from personal perspectives and bad experience in language learning. In the first section A, intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation are important patterns of the second language learning. Learners' intrinsic motivations are related to their cultural and learners' perceptions of language, such as the internal desire, curiosity, and the enthusiasm. The author indicates the motivation is the most important factors in language education. In addition, the author concludes the extrinsic motivation are external forces, which can reflect from the traditional learning environment. For example, grading is an extrinsic and external factor for learners. Furthermore, integrative motivation is affected by individual attitudes and characteristics. However, instrumental motivation is similar to the extrinsic motivation, which refers to marks, exams, and results. On the other hand, this case study showed that there is a positive relationship between motivation and the willingness. If learners are powerful motivation to learn language, learners can put more effort into work. On the other hand, the results show that native teachers and local people can inspire or encourage foreign learners' motivation. For the section B, I discussed about the motivation and attitudes. I found that motivation connects to attitudes and learners' characteristics. Dowd used 2 questionnaire surveys to instigate Mongolian students who major in the clinical medical and need to learn English. First, the author indicates that cognition and emotion are effective factors of learning acquisition. Positive motivation and attitude can improve language learning. However, the negative mental factors reduce learners' motivation. For the next part is about the challenge, curiosity, control, and the cooperation and competition and recognitions have positive impact on learning process. Finally, Zhao believes that attitude is an individual factor which influence learning outcomes and the learning behaviors. For the section C, it's about the effect of motivation and other factors. A case study successful study introduced a learner, Whale, with the high level of motivation who can self-regulate herself. The author emphasized that learners' characteristics and the effective learning strategies are the effect of motivation. For the last part, section D, is about the motivation and the demotivation. I compared the effect of motivating learners and demotivating learners in order to emphasize the importance of motivation. Positive motivations encourage learners to pay more attention to learn a second language and have a cognitive impact on learners' behavior. However, in Korean universities, demotivating factors make negative impact on learners. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Dani. So I will talk about the 4 parts. And the first part is the effectiveness of the developmental interventions, programs on motivations and learning of English vocabulary in preschoolers. So in this study, the authors investigate the relationship between exercise interventions and second language learning motivations and learning outcomes in preschool children. The author found that the preschool children in active multisensory learning while stimulate the visions, ordinary, and other sensory functions of the teaching methods is effective. And the students connect to educational curriculum through the physical activities, and teachers can integrate the contents to improve the qualities of learning and the ability to acquire knowledge, as well as to help students learn a second language. And the next is using parents and teachers' voice in the creation of the Western-based early childhood English language programs in China. So in this paper, the authors introduced the benefits of the early bilingual teachings, and according to the data, Chinese parents support their children's bilingual learning goals model, as well as their motivations and expectations for their children's English learning. And also through the early bilingual teaching, children can be motivated to learn a second language. And the next, the influence of content on adults L2 learners' test motivation. In this part, from the perspective of test-based teaching, learners are familiar with and in some cases experience topics related to life, and the students can personally experience challenge, difficulties, and feelings experienced by roles and writers. And then it can increasing the personal relevance and importance of tests. Also, when the learners are interested in what they are learning, they become more motivated and positive. And the last part, I will talk about the forms of participations and semiotic meditations in broad game for second language learning. And here it is found that the game experience of different characteristics engage students to continually accept or actively learn new language in a game. And also the broad game allows students to play different roles and provide the student with different opportunity and challenge to use the second language and promote the student to learn their knowledge of the second language through game. Yeah, I finished my part.
Well, my annotated bibliography is about how to stimulate English learning motivation in secondary school students. Learning motivation, it is an important factor affecting students' English learning. Teachers should understand the psychological characteristic of the secondary school students to stimulate their motivation better to learn English. Well, I will divide the 5 articles I find into 2 parts. The first part, it is the definition and classification of second language learning motivation. And the second part, it is the methods to stimulate secondary school students' learning motivation. In the first part, the article I find is named, it is not just about the game, a study on attitudes and the motivation of Malaysia secondary school students in the East Malaysia towards learning English as a second language. Through this article, I realized that motivation can be divided into the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is created by foreign language learners themselves through their interest, self-expression, and hobbies. External motivation means the foreign language learners are driven by external force rather than the internal ones. Most of the external temptation can be divided into the three categories: money, reputation, and promotion. In order to get these things, students may have to learn the language. Well, the second part, I think is all about the method to stimulate the secondary school students' English learning motivation. The first article I find is named "Motivation in Learning a Second Language: Exploring the Contributor of Family and Classroom Process." Through reading this article, it helped me realize that it shows that the familiar campus environment is conducive to motivating students to learn a second language. Well, the second article I find it is named "Using the Games in English Listening and Speaking Courses Impact on Learning Outcomes and Motivation." After reading this article, I realized that students who participate in gamification learning are more likely to achieve high English scores and are more active in learning English. Well, in addition, the authors believe that the game learning needs to be continually integrated into the technology. Well, actually, I think this view is good supplement to my research, because the paper showed the students have a strong curiosity about any new things according to their psychological characteristics. However, after the freshness wears off, students soon lose their interest in learning. Therefore, in the game design, I think the teacher needs to innovate the game from according to the psychological character of their students. If the same game is used for a long time, students will inevitably lose their interest in it. Teachers should continuously collect the new games materials through the Internet of Life and develop new games activity to attract students' attention and improve their teaching effects. The third article I find is named "Digital Storytelling for Enhancing the Student Academic Achievement, Critical Thinking, and Learning Motivation." Well, this article helped me realize that the use of the digital story teaching can effectively promote students' enthusiasm for learning English. Due to the plot and interesting in the story, students are likely to be interested in the students' performance and expansion of the story. This means that teachers can incorporate story elements into their teaching. It will help students to improve their learning enthusiasm and efficiency. And the last article I find is named "Can Learning Motivation Predict the Learning Achievement?" Well, through this article, I think the mobile games-based English learning allows students to have a clear goal while playing mobile phones game. Students can learn while playing, which can effectively improve their enthusiasm for English. At the same time, the teacher can use the completion of the student task in the background, which allows teachers to review the task in time and use online comments to encourage and praise the student, which can also stimulate their interest in learning English. Well, this is my part.
Part 4 is about motivational approaches. When it comes to second language learning, motivation is always considered as an important factor that positively or negatively influences learners' second language acquisition. Through previous research by James 2012, what is surprising to know is that transfer motivation does not automatically happen for second language learners beyond second language classroom. Why it happens? First, we need to know that there are three components of second language learners. Transferring motivation, which is a desire to transfer, favorable attitudes towards transfer, and effort to transfer. Based on the analysis, the former two are relatively widespread, but effort to transfer is limited. In other words, second language learners' motivation of transfer is influenced by different contexts. For example, opportunities, requirements, learning outcomes, and impact, and learners themselves. For example, abilities and beliefs for transfer. Therefore, let's say it is hard to judge every learner's intrinsic motivation because it depends on too much factors. As educators, we need to do it to realize the importance of involving different motivational approaches in courses preparation to strengthen second language learners' learning motivation. Here I'm going to talk about positive functions of motivation, specifically about how specific motivational approaches promote second language learning. First is relevant to reading materials and second language reading comprehension. In the second language classroom, one of the useful approaches to increase students' second language reading comprehension is using authentic reading materials, because authentic reading materials are close to students' daily lives, so they can be more interested in second language reading. Another useful motivation strategy that instructors can use to facilitate learners' second language learning comprehension is to use scared text motivational strategies. For instance, instructors can use different famous translations of scared book in second language to the classroom to increase the attractiveness of the course content. Or instructors can design different religious discussions to increase students' interest and involvement in the task. Second is about technology use and second language acquisition. Video technology has been a unique instructional medium for supporting language learning in the digital age of today. Therefore, it is necessary that instructors use video technology as a language instruction to facilitate students' second language learning. The function and use of video technology today should not be confined to simple watching and listening to the video contents. The functions can be diverse, such as recording learners' presentation in order to practice their pronunciation and presentation skills. Third is about visual imagery and second language learning. Pictures and comic strips promote students' narratives writing ability in second language learning, because these visual images help second language learners develop great imaginations and creativity, as well as increase their motivation in writing. Therefore, instructors can use visual images in second language writing instructions and practice to trigger second language learners' creativity and imaginations, and then motivate their narrative writing interests, as well as strengthen their writing abilities. Also, instruction strategy is considered as a motivational factor, especially the strategy like metacognitive and cognitive knowledge to stimulate learners' motivation as well as boost their reading proficiency. So motivation is an important factor for learners to get better second language acquisition. Therefore, acquiring a high second language proficiency does not only depends on learners' intrinsic motivation, but also extrinsic motivation. Thank you.